Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. So, I would like to give two analogies. Our spiritual master or guru, one day was having a conversation with his acharyas, sannyasas, and asked the question, how do you know somebody is developing spiritually? So many answers were given. Some people say intuition, and some people even spoke about maybe having CDs. And various answers were given. So after everyone in the audience had exhausted all the comments, because spiritual teacher did not show any indication that yes, this is the correct or that is the correct. Just remain quiet and allow everybody to give their opinion. What is the sign or what are the evidence of someone who is developing spiritually? When all the various views were exhausted, now everyone is looking at him. You know, what is he going to say? Then his response was, the evidence of spiritual development is simplicity. Some people are shocked, a bit shocked. Is that all? Simplicity was the sign of spiritual development. Now, that simplicity we can understand in these verses. In mind, when someone, what is the opposite of simple? We say complex, right? So if somebody, and you know when you meet people, oh, this person, and the simplicity here, other words can be used. Generally you say humble, this person is humble, this person is compassionate, you know, like that. And but he never used the word humble. He said simplicity. And this is very important. I'm going to. There's another analogy. This came from a monk. If there is a small pool and you throw a stone, this can make a noise, isn't it? And you see big ripples. If that pool expands into like a small river, you throw the same stone, what happens? To make a noise, and there will be some ripples. Now, if that from a small river, it expands even more bigger, and you throw the same stone, will it have the same impact as when that was smaller pond? Will it have the same impact? So what is the stone? The size of the stone is the same, but the impact is different. What has made the difference? Sorry? What has made the difference? The expansion. So it is we have to expand. The challenges in the life remain. The senses will perform. The external stimulus will remain the same. Whatever that stimuli will be from the outside or from the inside, from our glands and our conditioning and our memory. All kinds of senses are coming from the inside. You see an image and it triggers something within you. All of these things, both external and internal. But if the sense of self is expanding, the ripples of that will become minor. Hello? Are we together? And hence, the inner spirit of these messages is understanding who is the experiencer. When that one who is the experiencer is not with a narrow self-image, but is flowing in an ocean. Do you see? Last comment. Hence, Guruji says, we should not go into this with technicality to say, now, this is what I must do, this is how I must behave. Because that will not help you. Rather, we should use it as a test stone. And he explained that test stone. You know what is a test stone? I don't know if when you have retreat, Guruji explained that test stone. So it is like when one is purifying a gold, okay? And you want to test that this is really come to as it should be.
कसौटी. So next stone is कसौटी पत्थर. कसौटी पत्थर जो सत्तलोक की जो शिवलिंग है कसौटी पत्थर का है. So उसको उसका अंग्रेजी जिसको उससे सोना पर खाया जाता है. So yes, they have understood it now.
So if we use this as a test stone, it means that something must be happening within one's being that is causing an inner transformation, that the sense of self, that narrow sense of self, is disappearing and something new is emerging. Stillness is becoming natural state, is becoming part of one's being, and then suddenly one finds that I am no longer reactive to certain things. Somehow the tendency to react is not happening. And somehow there is an inner space, a distance between what is happening from the stimulus and who is the experiencer responding. And sometimes others may notice it even before you notice that there is something different about you. A change is taking place. That is all. Continue with the journey, the practice. Okay, of course.
So I have a question for all of you. So this line says, Indriyani Indriyartebhya. In the artebhya, which means separating the sensory perception from the sensory objects. That we say. Tasya pragya pratisthita. One who is able to do that is in a state of equanimity. But the question is, how do I do that if it is not happening? What should I do if how is not the question? How does it happen? It is the right question. So मैंने पूछा कि ये जो इंडिया ने हम लोग ने कहा क्या होता है हमारे मस्तिष्क में, और अगर उसका वो अगर न हो तो स्थित प्रज्ञा तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठित प्रज्ञा में प्रतिष्ठित होने की संभावना है. तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ कि ये हो कैसे, कब होता है, कैसे होता है? How is that? That's a natural question to ask. So that's the question I've asked to this group.
जी, ये स्थित प्रज्ञा शब्द को यदि हम देखें, जो प्रज्ञा में स्थित है, प्रज्ञा का अर्थ बड़ा अच्छा गुरुजी बताते थे शिवेंद्र बाबा. प्रज्ञा, प्रत्यक्ष ज्ञान, डायरेक्ट परसेप्शन. तो established in direct perception means जो है में होना, ऐसा होना चाहिए, उसमें नहीं जाना. To be in what is, not going in what should be. तो ये अर्थ हुआ स्थित प्रज्ञा. अब इसको कैसे उपलब्ध हुआ जा सकता? तो ये जो श्लोक हम लोग 18 श्लोक पढ़ते हैं, ये स्वाध्याय के पूर्व पढ़ते हैं. उसके बाद तप कर स्वाध्याय तप करने के पहले पढ़ते हैं. तो ये स्वाध्याय का पाठ है क्रिया योग का. ये यदि गीता में देखें तो मुख्य रूप से 3 मार्ग है. ज्ञान मार्ग, जिसको सांख्य मार्ग भी बोलते हैं, कर्म मार्ग और भक्ति मार्ग. ज्ञान योग, कर्म योग, भक्ति योग. तो ये ज्ञान योग है. स्वाध्याय में जो बताते हैं ये ज्ञान का भाग है. तो ये इसको उपलब्ध कैसे हो? यदि बात समझ में आ जाए कि इंद्रियों को जो जिस काम के लिए बनाया है वही करना है, उसमें मन का हस्तक्षेप ना हो, तो ठीक है, ध्यान हो गया, यही इसी को ध्यान कहते हैं. लेकिन हम देखते हैं मन का हस्तक्षेप हो जा रहा है, तो फिर हमको जो उपाय बताया गया कि अंतर जगत में कुछ करने से और गड़बड़ी हो जाती है. ये भी हम लोग बताते हैं स्वाध्याय में। अंतर बाहर में तो करना पड़ता है, लेकिन अंतर जगत में जो क्रोध आ गया, भय आ गया, लोभ आ गया, वहाँ न करना ही सबसे बड़ा कर्म है। इनएक्शन इज द हाईएस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ एक्शन, जो आप बोलते हैं। लेकिन ये बात भी समझ में नहीं आ रही है, तो तप करना पड़ेगा, क्रिया करना पड़ेगा, फिर समझदारी की ऊर्जा शरीर में आएगी और फिर हम वो समझ पाएंगे। ऐसा
इसमें हम
So the question was that we have understood the way the sensory perception becomes sensory expression, the experience and the problems it creates. We have also talked about what happens if that is that doesn't happen. That's when you understand the problem. But in between, we are asking, wo kaise? How does that transformation happen? How do I stop the sensory perception degenerating into sensory experience as we have discussed? So that's the question. So Ramakaji explained this very well. Yes.
तो अभी जो ये प्रश्न उठा है कि उस अवस्था को मनुष्य कैसे प्राप्त होता है, कब प्राप्त होता है, इस प्रश्न को मूल रूप से अर्जुन ने कृष्ण को पूछा गीता में। वो बोलते हैं कि आप जिस मन को नियंत्रित करने की बात बोलते हैं, ये तो ऐसा है जैसे वायु को हाथ में बांध कर रखना, जो संभव नहीं लगता। कैसे करेंगे? तो उस पर उन्होंने दो बात बताई है। पहला कहा है अभ्यास और दूसरा कहा है वैराग्य। अभ्यास, इसको एक क्रियावान ऐसे देख सकते हैं कि जो आपको तप मिला है, क्योंकि ये विज्ञान सम्मत तप है। इस तप से उस तप पे उपस्थित और व्यवस्थित होने में ये बहुत सहायता की है। लेकिन एक क्रिया अभ्यास तब तक बहुत सहायता नहीं कर सकता है जब तक उसको पूर्व होशो हवास में, समझदारी की ऊर्जा में और जागरण में न किया जाए। यहाँ वैराग्य शब्द जो आया है, वैराग्य शब्द इंडिकेट करता है जागरण की उस अवस्था को जहाँ एक अवेयरनेस है। इसलिए वेद में ये बात आई है कि अवेयरनेस इज ब्रह्मा। ये जागरण जिस बात को यहाँ रखा गया है, वो जागरण इंगित क्या कर रहा है, जो कि अभी अभी बताया गया कि स्वाध्याय की तरफ इंगित कर रहा है। स्वाध्याय, स्व हम समझते हैं स्टडी यानी पढ़ेंगे, पढ़ाई करेंगे, वो स्वाध्याय नहीं है। यहाँ पढ़ने की प्रक्रिया तो हो रही है, लेकिन वो स्व के ऊपर जो ध्यान हो रहा है, ध्यान हो रहा है, वो स्व है कौन सा? वह स्व है आपके भावनात्मक मय की परिधि में, जो आप हर हमेशा घूमते रहते हैं। विचारों के प्रवाह, विचारों के ताने बाने में, संसार की गतिविधियों में जब उससे आप इफेक्टेड होते हैं और उसके प्रभाव से प्रभावित होकर आप अपने जीवन शैली को उस धारा में लेकर चलते हैं, तो आप प्रवाहित नहीं हो रहे हैं, प्रभावित हो रहे हैं। इस बात को आप देख नहीं सकते। इसको कौन देखेगा? क्या कोई बाहर वाला इसको दिखा पाएगा? नहीं। इसलिए क्रिया योग में बोला गया कि तपः स्वाध्याय, स्वाध्याय प्रथम है। यानी ऐसे अपने मन की गतिविधि को जब मनुष्य देखने के लिए आरूढ़ होता है, जागृत होता है, तो पहला स्टेप है जागरूक। जब आप जागते हैं और इसके प्रति वेकफुल हो जाते हैं, जागरूक हो जाते हैं कि हमें तो अपने ही घर की सफाई करनी है, हमें मेला घूमने नहीं जाना है। ये विचारों के अमृत प्रवाह में जो हम प्रवाहित हो रहे हैं, हम इस स्व के प्रति क्या इसका अवलोकन हो सकता है? ऐसे स्व को जब हम देखने लग जाते हैं, तो वो पहला स्टेप होता है शरीर। दूसरा होता है जियो, यानी जब आप व्यवहारिक जीवन में जो आप कदम उठा रहे हैं, उससे प्रभावित होकर नहीं उठा रहे हैं, बल्कि जीवन प्रवाह में प्रवाहित हो रहे हैं। एक मनुष्य एक बहुत बड़ा समाज सर्किल के बीच में, समाज के बीच आ रहा है और उसमें लोगों के ताने बाने और उतार चढ़ाव से आप खुद को प्रभावित कर इस तरह से जीवन जी रहे हैं कि आप वो क्रिया में नहीं जी रहे हैं, बल्कि आप प्रतिक्रिया में चले गए हैं। इसको कौन देखेगा? और अगर कोई दिखाएगा तो उससे आपको रंज हो जाएगा, गुस्सा हो जाएगा। इसलिए बोला जा रहा है जागरूकता, यानी कि जो जागरण में आया, जो जागने की अवस्था में आया, जिन बातों को आपने सुना, उन बातों को अपने व्यवहारिक जीवन में अब आप इंप्लीमेंट करिए, जियो। ये जागना और जीना जब दोनों होने लगेगा तो आपकी दुर्दशा से, आपकी मन स्थिति से आपको त्राण मिलेगा। और जैसे ही त्राण मिलेगा आप जानने की प्रक्रिया को उपलब्ध हो जाएंगे और तब आप स्थित प्रज्ञता के निकट जाने लगेंगे। ये वाकई क्या चीज है? जी।
Is there anything you wanted to add, Gopiji, on the question of how do we arrest this tendency of sensory perception degenerating into sensory experience so that the transformation can happen?
More to just explain what they said in English, because that was not our culture. So what Amakyaji and Kriyaji was saying is, okay, so this is fine. I mean, this is what a state of equality is. But when does that happen? And what is the process? What is the process by which this can happen? And it comes to this that not only these 18 verses, but the entire Bhagavad Gita is only a reference book. It is not an instruction book. It doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't tell you to become something. It is saying that the process of equanimity is like this. It is not saying that you have to become one of equanimity. No one is saying that. It is telling you what the state of equanimity is. Now the question is that how can we know whether there is a state of equanimity or not? So, and how do we go about it? How do we know that Joel is explained? That this itself is a reference. If you watch yourself and see the changes that are happening within you, the response instead of reaction that happens when a stimulus comes. Somebody says something harsh and you feel insulted. That feeling of insult means that something is yet to happen towards the state of equality. Whereas one in this state of equality would take a harsh word without any sense of insult, because insult is to the image, the eyes. So the way is to do the kriyas and do the swadhyaya. So swadhyaya, we have often defined it as watching without a watcher. It's more like being aware of the activities of the mind. Awareness. The moment something is happening, a feeling of, let's say, this feeling of insult, an awareness that there was a feeling of insult. That's all that is required. No need to analyze why, how, and this and that. No analysis. Analysis is again with the mind. Mere awareness. And to help that, we do the kriyas. And when the kriyas are done, they are done with complete attention. Complete attention to the process of the kriya. Even when you go to a gym to build your body, to build muscles, the trainer says, visualize the muscles working. When you lift a weight, the trainer talks about visualizing the muscles in the area that you are now exercising. That attention to your exercise is important for the exercise to be effective on your body. It's the same with the kriyas. So when the kriyas are done, there has to be complete attention on what is being done. The mind may wander. When it wanders and you realize that it is wandering, bring it back and start paying attention again. Slowly, with
time. So, as Baba says, changes happen digitally in an instant. It's like putting a switch on or off. The light immediately floods the moment this flash hits you. But chronologically, it might take some time for that switch to get on. So that is because of this, that when we are doing the Kriyas, the attention is not entirely on that. So keeping the attention on each Kriya, where the points are, say the chakras, or when you are chanting Om in the Navi Kriya, the attention on the Navi without mind wandering here and there. The moment mind wanders, you will find that your count is going. Like, we have seen that people who do Navi Kriya or any other, when they are counting, say they have to count up to 100. So their finger, for example, goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then suddenly 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The reason for this variation in the beat is because the mind has wandered. A mind which is on that job, on the process that you are now doing, will not have that. The beat will remain constant.
You throw that foam outside the room.
I think, before we start, we should put our phones on silent or airplane mode or whatever, because what is being said is very, very deep actually.
Yes.
Right? Baba always says that religion is the gathering of energy, and it requires energy. It requires energy to listen, it requires energy to speak also. And in that gathering of energy, we have got this ripple of stones, and we have these ripples forming, which disturbs the others.
Gopiji, so I think, Indrani, India, here, this is an example. As I said, this one line is so loaded that if you understand this, there is a possibility of understanding every other message, and that's the reason we are spending so much time. So, and all of us have been saying that how do we arrest that tendency of the perception becoming experience, the sensory perception becomes sensuality of the mind that I have been talking about. We started with Joel giving the example. You are hearing something from somebody, but the auditory perception is being processed by the image you have about the other person. That the past experiences, that is determining what you do with the auditory senses. Or you see something beautiful and you say, what is it? You're talking about seeing a beautiful woman, or a rose that Kamakari is talking about. It's good to see the rose, but I want the rose in my garden. That becomes a problem. It is good to see a beautiful house, but you say, oh, here's a house, and I don't have a house, and then that becomes the end of your life, and all kinds of problems. How do we arrest that? That's what we are talking. And essentially, the theme that everyone has been saying is that be alert. Whenever that is happening, look at it. And when you look at it, that tendency gets arrested. And along with whatever we said, when you are able to do that, that is when the human being becomes a divine being. There's nothing else to do. These five senses are the culprits. I won't say the culprits, as I said yesterday, that, or the day before, that the universe has given us these five senses to experience itself in a way. So the conscious